I'm visiting what's left of Venlo night fighter airbase from World War II. This airbase straddles both Germany and the Netherlands. The Netherlands section to the left is still in use, however the German section to the right is abandoned, and this is the section that I'm going to explore. After the fall of the Netherlands to Germany in 1940, the Germans started to use this airport as a night fighter airbase from October 1940 until the 5th of September 1944. By the 1st of March 1945, the airport was liberated by the Allied forces. In this video, I shall take a look at what's left of the remains of an arched hangar, the remains of a warm hall, the remains of a maintenance building disguised as a farmhouse, and what's left of a T-hangar. I'll be giving you some history of the airbase itself. I'll also explain what each building was used for and the type of planes that were actually used in this airbase. Now I'm in a woodland looking for an abandoned place. Pretty obvious that, isn't it? I'm in a woodland which straddles the German and Dutch border. Now this place I'm looking for used to be an old airport called Venlo Airport. Now, as far as I know, the Dutch side of things I think is still active and is run by NATO. But the German side of it has been abandoned since the 1940s. Now there's a few structures left standing here. Hopefully I'll tell you a little bit of the history about it. And this airbase was taken over just after the occupation of the Netherlands and turned into a night fighter base. So let's go along and try and find out where these abandoned structures are. Since about 1815, this piece of land has been used by the Dutch army as a shooting range. Eventually, they decided to put an airbase here. I think round about the early 1900s, about 1914, something like that, beginning of the First World War. And the reason why they set it up here is apparently its ground is quite good at drainage, so it'll drain all the water off. Now you obviously don't want any water settling on an airport, so I'm only assuming that the airport would have been probably just grass at that time. Now between 1911 and 1940, this area, especially on the Dutch side anyway, was used as a shooting range. Eventually set it up as an airport, but no strategic advantages, to be honest with you. It was so close to the border that to Germany that it wasn't worth it. So they used it for aerial displays. Now, November 1930, they had a special visitor. They had the Graf Zeppelin airship pay a visit to them. Tenth of May 1940, the invasion of the Netherlands began. This obviously was taken over shortly after. By March 1941, this airbase, which covers something like, I think, 7 square miles, which is quite a lot actually, was ready for action. Now, the night fighter squad that were here were called INJG-1. The base was controlled by a guy called Hoffman Werner Straub. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was a night fighter race, apparently one of the very first night fighter races of the war, with 10 victories, i.e. shooting down Allied planes. Now this night fighter base was set up because of the Allied bombing. Now, during the day, the 8th American Air Force went and bombed around Europe, but at night the RAF with the Lancasters bombed Europe. Now, during the day it was quite easy to go and find the Allied bombers with the fighter planes that Germany had, but at night it was completely different. Hence the reason why they set up this night fighter squad. Now this, I think, was called a T-hangar. Not many of these in existence. As far as I can see, it's only this one. Maybe others scattered around, but if they're the same, then we can just look at this one anyway, if that's the case. But I will look just in case there is one. Any, I should say. 35 metres by 25 metres. Covered with wood. And then apparently some more steel brackets. And then some roofing felt. I'm assuming it was black roofing felt, so it would disguise the this area. Now, where the entrances are, I think there was roller shutter doors. Now they've all gone. They've more like been scrapped or weighed in or whatever they did it after the war, which obviously stuff was short of supplies. And once the planes were in, which I'd say would probably fit at least 2 planes in here easily. They could have closed the doors and it'd been nice and safe, or I should say, from the elements, if nothing else. Now, apparently, this was a fully fledged hangar, H-A-N-G-E-R, and not a shelter. So that means, I think, there would actually been equipment in here for any repairs that were necessary. Also, there may have been ammunition around here, maybe some ammunition stores to fill these night fighters back up before they set off again to obviously intercept the Allies on the bombing raids at night. Now you can see the gigantic concrete blocks in place. That's no doubt to stop the arched hangars from slipping. Now, if this was very sandy soil, or I should say very porous soil, then there may not have been very good footings for the planes, for the arch to sort of stay in one place. So they've put these foundations, which are obviously supporting the arches to stop it from moving, obviously, outwards. You can see the back wall there. It's virtually all gone. That more than likely would have reached the top of the roof anyway. So there'd only been one way in, one way out. And obviously the wall's probably not short of 1 metre thick. So that would have given it some kind of bomb protection. Now apparently there's 6 types of this hangar left in this area. I only can find reference to this one, so I'm only assuming that if you went over to the Netherlands side of things, then more than likely the rest of the actual hangars are still there, but obviously I can't get on there. As far as I know, it's still run by NATO. Now if you see the little lips there, the concrete sections of the arches, that's more than likely where they'd have sat the wooden and metal frame before they put the felt onto it. Now that girder sticking out there, I've got a feeling it's probably anchored into the floor, and that one there. And then concrete would have been, or I should have been shuttering, wooden shuttering round it, and concrete poured in, and then tampered down. When went set, then it was ready to go. Now, this airbase had very little success initially at the beginning of the war, until about the summer of 1942, where the Germans introduced the Bf-110 F4. Now, this version had a radar fitted called an FUG-202 Liechtenstein radar, which had roughly a range of between 2 and 3 miles. But what made it more effective was actually the ground radar as well. Now, with ground radar, the Würzburg and the Freya radars, they could actually track these planes, speed, height, whereabouts they were, and they could direct the actual night fighter aircraft to within 500 metres of these actual planes. Now, once that had done, then the FUG-202 would pick it up, and then the plane would take over. The reason why these night fighters were so successful, because they had two 20mm cannons on the top of the plane, slightly back from the cockpit and facing up to about 80-degree angle. So when the night fighters latched on to the actual Lancaster bombers, then, because they were just slightly underneath and slightly back from the centre, they could fire onto these planes and destroy them. Now, the tracers, which you've seen a lot of clips where you can see like bullets flying at someone, it's all lit up, they were actually modified so they didn't glow as much, and that's to attract less attention. Now, the reason why they attacked underneath these Lancaster bombers, because they'd realised that the Lancaster bomber didn't have no protection underneath it. It had guns all the way around it, except for underneath, not like the B-17s, which had a ball to it underneath. So the Germans knew that they were vulnerable from underneath, hence the reason why they attacked them from below. Now, apparently, other planes were used from here as well. Now, more than likely during the day. One was the ME-111 carrying V1 rockets. They've taken off here. Now, the V1 rockets would have been aimed for somewhere in the north of England, that area, because V1 rockets only had a range of 160 miles, which is not a lot. So fired from here would be very effective, really, to England. So hence the reason why they carried it. And also, I think they used the ME-163 Comet. That's a rocket plane. Now, probably that was fairly successful, but it had limited usage. It took off on some kind of a ski ramp underneath it, and then what it would do then, it would fly around for a few minutes, fight, shoot at whatever it was shooting at. The beauty of that type of plane was it was so quick, and then when it didn't run out of ammunition or run out of fuel, then it would have to glide back down to earth. And apparently the Germans were developing the ME-410 for a night fighter plane as well. On the 15th of August and the 3rd of September 1944, this place was bombed by the Allies, completely out of action. The night fighter force was moved on to a place called Munster-Handorf, where it carried on doing its night fighter duties, I suppose. Now, at the end of the war, when the Germans were retreating, they had a scorched earth policy, so they destroyed a heck of a lot of these buildings around here, so it couldn't be used by the Allies. On the 1st of March 1945, this place was liberated by the Allies. The repairs to the runway were carried out by a company called Yankee 55. American bombers and reconnaissance planes flew from here, from the 9th Fleet. Some famous people came here. One was Eisenhower, one was Churchill. This airfield was actually abandoned in 1945 or late in 1945, and all the millions of bricks that was based in these buildings around here had been blown up by the Germans anyway. It was used to reconstruct the houses and the buildings around this area anyway. Since 1946, the Venlo Gliding Club have taken over this area. No doubt it's somewhere around here, but definitely isn't here. And since then it's been used for that area. But in 2005 it was down as something like a national monument.
I've stood outside what they call a warm hall. Basically, it's a hangar that's centrally heated in one, or I should say, with a chimney and a boiler and a fireplace. And the idea of these things were to keep the mechanics nice and warm while they work on these planes. That's your base round Venlo. Now, apparently, there's 102 hangars. That was initially in Venlo. I think there's about 12 warm halls. We're going to look at one afterwards, another one, a farmyard further down, so we'll have a walk around that as well. But generally, this is what they were. They were somewhere they could keep them at the morale and maintenance, probably, of the people that worked here. And no doubt the pilots would sit here and have a chat and stuff like that. Well, there's a chimney going all the way up there to the top. Floor missing, obviously. There would have been a boiler there. See the brackets there. I think the boiler might have been on that wall there. There'd be pipes being fed where the holes are fed from the fireplace or to the boiler. Then the the pipes with hot water, and they would have been fed all the way around this building to keep everything nice and dry.
What you're looking at down there is it looks like the old Dutch shooting range. It probably still being used actually. It looks as though it probably is, but it's actually on the German side of things. Now, whether they changed the borders around since the Second World War, around here anyway, I'm not sure. But it's off bounds, so we can't go and have a look at it. But at least you can see what I can see really.
Well, it started off sunny before, now it's turned tail. Oh well, never mind.
Now what you're looking at, looks like a farmhouse. But it's not really a farmhouse. It's disguised as a farmhouse. It was actually an hangar, and it was called. What's its nickname or its name after its owner, Harry Coulson. But as you can see, it's obviously destroyed now. There's not much left of it really. Now, there was more than one of these type of hangars. But the idea is obviously to make it look like a farmhouse, so there's less chance of the Allies bombing it. It's on the outskirts of Venlo Airport, but if you think about it, if they're going to bomb it, they're going to bomb this as well. So maybe the disguise was a waste of time. This place isn't really a farmhouse. It's just made to look like one. It's actually a warm hangar, a warm hangar. Or a maintenance hall. It's when the planes have obviously come back, need some damage has been done, so they bring them in here. And the thing is it's got a fireplace here. It usually has a boiler downstairs to heat the place up. And they used coal. They didn't use oil or anything like that, or petrol or diesel or anything like that, because that was for the war effort. So the Germany had plenty of coal, so it used coal to warm this place up. Now, I think the maintenance hall here used to maintain a ME-163 Comet, which is an intercepting plane. It's a rocket plane, basically. And this is what they used to use or maintain in this place. This hall is about 30 metres by 20 metres wide. It's just big enough. I'll try and look around the other side if I can see anything. I can. It's quite overgrown anyway. To see, you reckon that the ME-110 would actually fit in this thing. Now, I'm assuming, I'm not into the details about ME-163, I'm not sure how big and wide it is, but if that fit in, more than likely other planes would fit in as well, because they just didn't maintain one plane, they maintained quite a number of planes here. Now, after the war, the Americans took over this place, and they used to have P-51 stored in here at some point, so obviously they used the airbase for their own benefit.
Right, I'm going to move on down a little bit, lower down to the remnants of Venlo Airport, and hopefully find the entrance. And there should be what they call a fairly intact T-hangar. Well, the walls if nothing else. Let's see what happens. Let's go and see if we can find it. This is a plaque for a memorial of Venlo Airfield, and it basically says, we remember the victims, citizens, concentration camp prisoners and forced labourers of Venlo Airport. Sorry if you can hear the cars, but I'm right on the B221, I think it is, something like that. Right, this piece of concrete here just represents gate 9 for the east main entrance to Venlo Airport. Now that piece of concrete apparently is from, I think, one of the hangars that was based around here, and what the locals or the council or the local authority have done have obviously stuck it up there, carved it all out and painted it up, so at least you know where the entrance to gate 9 entrance is to Venlo Airport back in the 40s. This is probably 100 metres away from the entrance, so they reckon that it's not actually a guard shelter. It would have been right on the thing itself anyway, wouldn't on the doors on the gate itself. The only thing
people that I've got the information from anywhere, is the only thing that could be a splinter protection. In other words, it's somewhere the soldiers, if they're walking through here and the Allies start bombing, they can nip in here and get some protection. Now, it's 1.5 metres by 1.5 metres by 1.5 metres deep. The floor's missing, and there's a hole there for a stove hole, I think they call it, something like that. The walls are only 10-11 inches thick, not a lot, maybe 300 mil. And somebody here at one point, I don't know what it was something sticking out, so maybe, as I said, splinter protection. It looks as though there's never been a door on this, so it's just a matter of darting in and that's it.
This is the way into Venlo, well, it was Venlo Airport, east side in 1940, but this is the way it would have been, people would have been coming in. And stanchions there are actually built, well, the walls built around the stanchions, and the reason that is because they needed a substantial roof on it.
What's behind me is what they call a T-hangar, as in letter T. I think the reason it's called that is because of the shape of it, really. There's 4 of these T-hangars around this area, but this is the best one, I think, that I've tried to find. It's the only one that's, well, it's not intact, is it? But you know what I mean. It looks as though it's in fair good state for us to have a walk round. It's very overgrown, so just do our best we can. The buttresses on the outside of these walls, them brick pillars, are there to support the wall because because of the roof, the structure of the roof. I mean, this is quite wide. This has got to be 40-50 meters wide, so it'd be substantial weight on top of this building. So hence the reason they've built these buttresses to give the wall some support. Right between these walls are where these buttresses are. The wall's quite thick, and it was hollow initially, and then what they've done is they filled it up with concrete and just make it more harder and more solid. When it's set, they can support this roof. Right, take the wall and let you have a look at these the inside of these buttresses, because there's some indentations here. I've got a feeling this is where the metal hangers would hang before they put the roof cladding on. I called these buttresses last time, but a buttress really sits up against a wall and it supports it. But in this case, this buttress has actually been built into the wall itself. No doubt it's obviously to give it strength when it puts the roof on. Now, if you look at that gap there, that's where I think the beams will have sat to expand over this actual roof. Now, this has got to be 50 metres wide at least, so there'll be a heck of a weight on top of this, on top of these walls. So of these things obviously need to be built in, and then the brickwork. And I'll show you in a minute about the infill, because there's a gap up here in a minute where some of the bricks fell out, and you can see the infill of the actual wall between both the front and back wall.
Well, there you go. There's the outer wall, and you can see it was hollow inside, and they've just lobbed a load of bricks in with concrete mixed in to try and give it some additional support. Well, they're the so-called buttresses. They're really not buttresses. They're not actually sitting against the wall. They're sitting away from the wall. Sorry, they're sitting with the wall, so in situ. So basically, these buttresses have been put in before the wall were built, and then no doubt I don't know how deep they are, but no doubt they're going maybe a few feet just to give it some support when they put the roof on. If you really want to see what a buttress looks like, just go to Lacopole, near Calais, and then great big buttresses there were propping the roof up. The 617 Squadron came along with one of the tall boy bombs and knocked them off the side of the building itself. So now the buttresses sit away from the actual dome itself. Now it says in 1942 Venlo stopped having concrete floors in. They started putting cobblestone floors in, so I'm assuming that the Germans needed the concrete for other places. Basically, matter of fact, in 1944, when about March, they started to build the Atlantic Wall, so maybe they needed concrete for there. Now, I've tried to scrape some of this floor back, and I cannot see any sort of cobblestone under here whatsoever. So
I'm only assuming it's been reused for other things. Right behind me, there's a wall here. It's basically a bomb-proof wall. It's a fragmentation wall. In other words, if a bomb had landed behind here, there's less chance of it coming into this building, especially this wall's here. Now this wall's about 600mm thick. It's quite big. There's nothing at the back of it, so this is the back of the actual hall itself. Now, no doubt there was other buildings around here, but everything's overgrown. I can't see anything anywhere. But so it's a bomb blast wall really, and our country had them as well.
Well, I hope you'd enjoyed that little bit of information on Venlo Airport and what it was used for in World War II. Hopefully I'll see you on the next video. See you again.